Welcome to the Mom Founders Table. Pull up a chair and join me every week as I become your thought partner and help you lead to create change. I'm your host, Kelsey Kenry, entrepreneur, millionaire mom of three, and strategic business coach for established mom entrepreneurs. Every week, you will get tactical guidance to apply to your business, leadership, and life that will help you further your true success while also being invited into a new way of thinking and being that creates true freedom. I'm here to call you out and call you up, so take a seat and let's begin. Welcome back to another episode of the Mom Founders Table. And today I'm going to ask you some hard questions, and I'm going to be honest with you about what really matters, because I'm realizing more and more the older that I get, the longer that I am advising and having conversations with women, that this has become my duty and my responsibility to be honest with you, to provide clarity, to help you see the things that you can't see. And one of the things that I have realized in every change and transition of my life is at a certain point, I basically stopped, and instead of asking myself, how do I make my existing life bigger or better, I started asking myself and having these checkpoints of, am I actually building the life that I want to build? And this is the conversation that I'm realizing people are not having. People are just so attached to building the thing that they think might be the answer to everything. And as much as we are, especially for all my millennial moms, we are healers, we are creative thinkers, our generation is doing the most. We also are tired. And so I think sometimes when we're cognitively tired and when we're doing so much, that we just want the path of least resistance. And the path of least resistance that people are choosing is actually the harder path, because we keep ending up in this place where we feel stuck, where we feel like there's this void of like, we're just stuck in this in between. We keep looking back on our years and telling ourselves the story of, this year will be different, or I'm going to implement this. And then we find ourselves running into the same issues. And we're obsessed with productivity. We're obsessed with evolution, and as we should be. And we aren't taking a beat to just ask ourselves the right questions. And what I found is that when I'm starting to dig in with my clients and I'm starting to ask them some questions, and when we go through the assessment and the analysis process, is that we think the answer is bigger and growth. And most times the problems that they're experiencing are not growth oriented. The problems that they're experiencing are coming from the same root, which is how they're defining success. So I myself and almost every client that I've worked with has gone down the path of pursuing certain things, right? So pursuing more revenue because it feels safer, pursuing more clients because they feel like the demand is validating them, pursuing a bigger team because that's what scaling is supposed to look like, pursuing more offers or pivoting offers because the current numbers feel insufficient or like something's missing, creating more urgency consistently because slowing down feels like failing. It feels like in that silence, we would be forced to face things that we don't necessarily want to look at. And a lot of times we feel like this exhausted feeling. We can go to like, okay, this just means like, I need to have better habits, or I need to, implement this platform in my business, or maybe if I can just get more disciplined over here. And all these things can be true, but I just have such an issue with us not looking at the root of things. And I think this really comes from my own evolution. If I'm tracing this back of like, why does this matter so much to me? Like, why are you so unwilling to just stop at the surface, right? For myself, for my clients. And what I realize is that, of course, this makes sense because as somebody who spent 10 years doing the same shit, ending up in the same place time and time again, I don't want that for you because I did it and it's fucking miserable. Right. And so sometimes the structure that we have been told to build, the steps that we have been able to take, sometimes it's working, right? Sometimes it's working as it was designed to, but the design and the infrastructure and the plan isn't the problem, right? Like how many times have you had an idea or been inspired or maybe even worked with a coach to where they're like, you should do this thing, or somebody else is like, here's an idea, or you see something and you're like, oh, they're really killing it. And so I should do that too. And then you go and you do it. And you're like, this feels like complete shit, but I think I'm doing it. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And so we're just like completely disconnecting from ourselves, from our lives, like, and for what? And I know that there seems to be almost two camps of people. And I hate that it's so separated because I think there's one camp of people, and I'm interested to know if you're listening to this, you should send me a message on Instagram and let me know which camp you're in because I'm really curious to know of my listeners, like where you fall. There's the camp of people that essentially we've decided that hard work and hustle and grit and, you know, going full throttle, like that is the way. And then there's this camp of people that's like, I know that that's maybe what I've built, but I also believe that there could be something that's maybe more simple. And my desire is more peace related. Because I think there's people that really like they thrive in no, I don't want to say chaos, but they thrive in like that bigness and always going and all. And part of me questions like if that's you, like, do you really like that? Or do you like the dopamine hits? Do you like the endorphins for like what that's creating? And how often are you crashing and burning? Right. But my point is there essentially seems to be these two camps. And like, I just believe that there's room for both. I just believe there's seasonality in our business. I believe there's seasonality around our life, right? To where it's like if you have a hard patch in your life and your business just completely falls apart because you need to take care of your personal life, that's a problem. Right? If your success in business depends on you being high energy and running full throttle all the time, that's literally not reflective of the human experience. So what are we building? Right? So I think that we have inherited certain metrics that we are measuring our success by, right? We've inherited these things that we are putting ourselves next to and saying, am I checking these boxes? Right. So like revenue is a big one, right? Especially with the rise of social media and people sharing how much money they're making, which I don't I actually think that it's really important and that it's created a lot of opportunity and possibility. And I think that there is a way in which it has helped women be like, holy shit, you know, I can make $100,000 a month. I can make $200,000 a month. I can make $1 million a month. Like, whoa, like somebody's doing that. That's amazing. Right. So there's that guiding light. And also there's that part of us that's like, oh, but if I'm not doing that yet, then I'm not enough. So that's what I'm saying. I think we've created these metrics that we're weighing ourselves again without actually questioning if the metrics matter to us. And that is the problem. So we have revenue, we have our social media following, we have the size of our launches, we have the number of clients, the number of team, how full our calendar is. Like these are things that have been created by society and glamorized to where it's like, oh, that means when I'm checking those boxes, I'm successful. But my question for you is, did you consciously choose this scorecard you're using? Or did somebody on the internet hand it to you? And if it wasn't the internet, like, this is our belief system is inherited by our experiences, which can be childhood. You might have entrepreneur parents, and the boomer generation, absolutely. They like dollar for dollar, time equals money, all of that, right? So that's the question that I want you to sit with today is like, these things that you're measuring yourself against, how much do they matter to you? Right? Because funny enough, I think that some people might think that I maybe am against scaling and growing. And it's quite the opposite, because what I believe is that scaling and growing we need to do it right. That's my belief. I think that most people are so obsessed with speed around scaling and so obsessed with, I saw a very famous person in the business space talking about how his philosophy was that he was going to do all of the hard things as fast and quickly as possible so that he could enjoy his life. I remember watching it and I'm like, I can understand that concept. I can understand how we can tell ourselves, if I just work my ass off and make all this money and do all these things now, then I'll be able to XYZ. And honestly, there's a lot of people that have done that, right? To where it's like, and they may retire early and it's like they have all this freedom because they have all this money. I guess my question is, what about the regrets? What about your children's childhood? What about, and that's where it's really like, what matters to you? Because if you're like, I don't give a shit, I am so all in for like just busting my ass for like whatever, just 20 years, just freaking running through brick walls, and I love it, and you truly love it, awesome. But if you're like, I love it because somebody else told me I should love it, and this is what success looks like, that's what I'm questioning. So it's not a this or that situation. I want people to make more money. I want people to grow. I want people to evolve. I want people to run big businesses. But more than that, I want people to make the conscious choice and choose to exercise our right to choose what kind of life we're living. That's my thought, right? Because really, when it comes to more and bigger, it's really only useful when it creates something that feels valuable to you, right? So it's only useful for us to have more team members when that creates more freedom. It's only useful for us to invest more into our business when it's creating a better client outcome, right? So the valuable things to us, that the freedom, the time back, the great customer experience, the greater financial stability and security, the deeper impact that we care about, the stronger family alignment. If we're being really honest, the lack of ability for successful women to form deep friendships because they don't have time is fucking crazy to me. And I know because I've been that person. Having 3 kids in 5 years and running businesses, I have so many acquaintances, a very large network, and had very few actual friends. And our social connection, there is so much research around this being the thing that's directly connected to our happiness. So doing more, being more, creating more is only useful when it's creating these things that feel valuable to us, when it's creating, deeper connections with people you love, when it's creating more intellectual and creative fulfillment for us, when it's creating time and space for us to really do what we love, because when we're doing what we love with people we love, we're happy. And if we are all happy, the world is a better place. But we keep building the same thing that at moments in time we say we want to escape. We are so attached to so many things that keep us stuck. And I see this, I've seen it in myself, I've seen it in all of my clients. We form this attachment, and this is where our identity becomes our work, because we're attached to being needed. We want people to want us. We want people to want our time and our attention, because it makes us feel like we have purpose. We're attached to being busy because it makes us feel like we've been productive. It makes us feel like we have provided something like we have checked boxes today. And so that means we brought value to the world. We are attached to being the smartest or most evolved person in the room. We are attached to being saviors, right? The one of the hardest things for me, truthfully, in changing my life is I did have all of these friendships that, I was the ultimate party girl. And I had all these people that I, of course, thought were my friends, but it's like, if I'm not partying anymore and you're not my friend anymore, that's really interesting. And so I found myself, as I started to, disengage and create a different path, where I'm now working out, I'm in life coaching, I'm obsessed with personal development. I'm like, oh, I've taken all the time that I was spending on self-destructive patterns. I now am reconstructing my life. I now have refocused that energy towards, what can I do to make myself feel good? And so when I did that, even going to the gym, I'm like, you guys, I feel amazing. Come with me. You have to try this. Right? Like, I'm totally that friend. Still to this day, it's like if I find a new platform or something, I'm texting my friends like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever. Right? And I can't save everybody. And that sucks. Because my core and my heart, I want people to be happy. I want people to deeply love themselves and their lives. I want them to have incredibly rich relationships. I want them to have healthy bodies so they can live a long time. I want them to have fun. I want them to play. I want them to feel joyous. I want them to feel grateful. I want people, when they sit by themselves, to be like, man, my life is amazing. And most people don't feel that way. So I had to figure out that I can't save people. I can't be the hero in everybody's story, especially people that don't want to change. So we're attached to being people that save everybody. And we're attached to being the reason why people succeed. We're attached to being the person that holds everything together. How many times have you been told, like, you're the glue, right? It's like, what if I don't want to be? So the issue that we see is that, like, we can consciously want, the idea of freedom is what we crave, right? To just be able to wake up and just, like, we visualize, like, can I wake up and just have nobody need anything from me? One of my clients, because when I'm working with clients, we always build with, like, the end in mind, right? So we don't make short-term decisions. We always think about, like, okay, if we do this, what's that going to trickle into, and what's our bigger vision? And so at our VIP day, which is where I start all my private clients, I asked her, I'm like, we did a meditation that was vision, long-term vision based. And she was like, I want to be bald, braless on the beach, like the 3 Bs. And so now when we're going to make decisions, and I was like, is this decision going to get you closer to that? Right? Because now she has her North Star. And so we really envision And all of us want autonomy and freedom and flexibility. And a lot of times that's especially for those of us that have like stepped out of corporate. I don't know why I said us. I've never worked a corporate job in my life. Especially for those of you who have stepped out of a corporate setting or working for somebody else. It's like, why would I work for somebody else when I could work for myself? That's going to allow me to make my own schedule until you just recreate the same thing. You're working more, right? So you can consciously want freedom and think that you are building freedom while unconsciously building complete dependency. So what I want you to understand is there's a drastic difference between somebody having a capacity problem and an alignment problem, right? So a capacity problem is going to sound something like, I want this outcome, but I don't have the infrastructure, right? I need better support, systems, or resources. So like when we come in, this is why we always do a diagnostic first. This is why we have built my assessment. This is why we do an analysis, is we are digging into what is actually happening first. Because what we find is that most time it's a combination of capacity and alignment. So people, their systems need to be updated. They don't have the right platforms. They don't have the right team structure. They don't have the right services, or they're not priced correctly. And so these are all infrastructure issues that are creating capacity problems. An alignment problem is when you keep trying to optimize something that you actually aren't sure that you really still want. So these things, it's like if you keep ending up in the same place and you're just unconsciously moving forward one step in front of another. I've created this business. I feel tied to this business. This is how I provide for my family. I need to optimize these things. I need to create this infrastructure so that, yes, and we don't blindly create infrastructure for my clients. We're not going in, like I just gave the example of my clients, we're not going in and saying, okay, let's get you some hours back. Here's how we're going to do it, right? Let's get your processes cleaned up. Let's get your team cleaned up. Let's get basically your whole back end operations. Let's make sure you have the right things in place there. We aren't just going in and changing the infrastructure. We're changing the internal operating system of the CEO, of the owner. Because we could change an infrastructure and it could actually get you your time back and get your freedom back. And you're like, I still hate every second of this, which is why we have to know the North Star, which is why we have to be conscious about what we're building and why we're building it. So I want to give you a new scorecard. I want to give you permission today to do whatever you feel called to do in this season. It might be time to pivot your business. It might be time to shut down current things that you're offering. It might be time to go all in on something that you've been holding back on. But the questions that we need to be asking ourselves, instead of that scorecard that I mentioned earlier that society and social media has created for us, is there's a series of questions that I think would be really, really helpful for you. And the first one, of course, is, does this business support the way that I want to live beyond finances? Because I can't tell you how many people are like, yeah, I'm working on scaling to 7 figures. I have a lot of people that come to me that are in that like 600 to 800, right? Or they're like right at 7 figures and they're like, okay, so we're doing the next thing. And I'm like, oh, right. And then when I start asking questions, it's like, I can figure out if it's an alignment or a capacity issue that's going to stop them from that. So does the business that you have support the way that you want to live? Do you feel proud of how your revenue is being generated? Do you actually feel proud of that? Does your company become stronger or weaker when you step away? And is your growth, is it increasing your freedom or is it just increasing your obligation? Right? These are the questions we have to start asking ourselves. Another one is about you personally. Do you like the person that you have to become to maintain this model? Because I can't tell you how many people I've worked with that have built really big teams and they're like, I feel so disconnected from my work because now what I'm doing is just managing a team and this isn't what I wanted to do at all. And one of my clients, it was so amazing because we actually redid the infrastructure of her business and she makes just as much. I think they actually surpassed, I was checking with her the other day, surpassed her revenue, but her profits are so much higher. And we redid her team structure to where she's actually in the work in the parts that she likes. But it was like pulling her out to just ask her those sorts of questions of like, have you thought about this? Because most of us haven't, because we're just doing the things we have to do because we're busy. And now we're like, well, I have these responsibilities, so I have to carry them through. Which brings me to my next question, which is about where you're building from. What is your internal driver? Honestly, are you building from desire? Are you, or are you building from fear? Because 9 times out of 10, I find that it's fear. When we really peel back the layers of why we've created the business the way that we have and why we're afraid to change it. Change doesn't mean less money. Just have to say that for you. Because and with my clients, a decrease in revenue, God, I've worked with so many people. I don't want to say never has happened because I don't want to lie. But I would say I can't remember a time where it did. And that is with us actually pivoting, changing, doing whatever is needed for that North Star goal. Most times, my clients are increasing revenue, but people think that you can only increase revenue by running through brick walls constantly. So are you building from this desire, this intrinsic motivation of something different, or are you building from fear because if you stop, it will all fall apart? This has been really relevant for me and my current season because we've had so many people ask us kind of like why we're moving. And it's really been interesting to realize that most people don't make change in their life until something's wrong. And the biggest reason that we are moving to Texas is for the life that we want. And even down to like our home and the setup of our home and the functionality of our home was about the vision of our life, so I know what it's like to make decisions that feel scary. I have learned how to simplify business architecture instead of just creating random revenue. Like I think there are a lot of people in the coaching and consulting space. It's like, it's a lot. It's a lot. I have so many friends that do, have different types of models that they're running. And I'm like, I love that for you. And also that makes me so tired. And it's just like, that's okay. But that's what I'm telling you is that you get to have that choice, right? I have become more and more selective about where my presence is really valuable. I have been very strategic about building my services and offers around transformation and strategic leverage. I have been very committed to refusing to worship busyness or refusing to attach my value to how full my calendar is. And this summer has been very eye-opening, and where I could even tighten up my own boundaries and where I was leaking energy and creating things that like that's my first question to myself if I ever hit a place, which I still do, I'm still human, of like, man, this doesn't feel good. My first question is always like, how am I enabling it? Right? I believe that kind of going against the grain as somebody who is very strategic with my advisory, as somebody who knows how to build successful businesses, I believe that measuring my success by my fulfillment, by the happiness of myself and my family, by my ability to actually have not just freedom of time, but freedom of my mind, right? Like I had so many years where I felt so guilty for being still, just measuring my success by the things that I truly value. And that's what I want for you too. So I hope that you will take these questions that I've asked of you seriously. I hope that you will rewind and re-listen and write them down and do some journaling around them. Because honestly, especially as mothers, I really believe that since we are this generation who is creating so much change, I feel responsible for showing my children that we can be truly wealthy, and that's not just about money. And it's not villainizing money, because money is necessary. It is about making money in a way that provides us freedom, flexibility, and financial security and stability, and never letting money be the prime motivator, or never falling into the trap of the illusion that a certain revenue level will create happiness. Because you can Google 8 million stories of people who built billion-dollar businesses that are completely miserable. So I want you to make a lot of money, and I'm going to help you do that. I'm going to help you make way more money, and I'm going to help you enjoy your life more so you can have the best of both worlds, because I'm sick of people being stuck in the black and white of one or the other. And if you haven't heard already, my mastermind, the Mom Founders Table, is the best place to do just this. This is where we are going deep inside your infrastructure, your goals, and allowing you to repaint your canvas, allowing you to overcome the stuck feeling, the feeling of being in a void, the feeling of like, what's next, the feeling that you've been itching to, push into something that's different or new, the feeling of wanting to create greater success, but wanting it to look different in your life. That's what we're creating. So the Mom Founders Table is a mastermind that is built for women who are established in business, who have been around the block, who understand the throes of motherhood, who understand the hardship of entrepreneur. You're not new to the game, and you're ready to build something that you and your children can be truly proud of. So if you have been looking at it, if you have questions, my DMs are open, you guys. It's always me in there. Send me your questions, send me your thoughts. If you're like, I'm interested, this is a season I'm in, I'm not sure, the best thing you can do is ask. I'm not going to pressure you into making a choice that's not right for you. I'm just going to ask you some questions and help you make the right decision. So send me a DM on Instagram. You guys can find me there. We'll drop the link, of course, in the show notes. When this episode airs, our applications will probably be closed, but we start in September. And so if you want to have a conversation with me and forego that application and just have a direct one-to-one with me, you can do that by just sending me a message. So thank you guys for listening today. I hope this has given you some food for thought, and I'll see you next week.